Hi everybody, this is Helmut and you are on EcoDrive. Today I show you with the Mazda CX-5 how to drive as economically as possible. This car has the 194 horsepower, 143 kilowatt 4-cylinder gasoline engine. It weighs about 1,650 kilograms and it has a 6-speed automatic gearbox. The trip we're doing is our regular loop. I'll show you on the map. It's about 75 kilometers. It contains of an uphill section at the beginning, hilly, some rolling hills afterwards, then there follows a descent, some country roads, highway, and at the end we will be in inner city traffic for around 17 kilometers. With this vehicle, as I do with all the vehicles, I try to use as little fuel as possible, and therefore the most important thing, as with every vehicle, is just to read the road, to see what's happening in front of you, to avoid braking. With regular gasoline engines or gasoline vehicles with automatic or manual gearboxes, there are also some other tricks to keep the consumption down. For example, keep the engine load, or try to have a high engine load but low revs. This means sometimes, especially if you're accelerating or if you're going uphill, it might be useful to put the shifter in the manual mode and prevent the gearbox from shifting to a higher gear to a lower gear, and so keep the revs down and the load high. I know this car has already, how much is it? 64,000 kilometers. Because this is my old company car. My company owns this car for 3.5 years now, and for about 10 months now this is the second car of my company, because we had to buy another vehicle just because we needed more space. So I know this vehicle quite well, and I think we will be able to keep it below 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers. The WLTP consumption for this vehicle is 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers, and I mean that's absolutely no problem to stay below that, or have a better gas mileage than in the EPA rating which I inserted. And yeah, I keep the cameras running all the time, which means you see how I'm driving, you see the engine revs, you see the speed, and most importantly, I hope you see that there is no need to go extra slow in order to reduce fuel consumption. Going slow doesn't mean you're driving economically. That's why the cameras are running all the time. I hope you enjoy this trip, this car, my company, and this beautiful Tyrolean weather with this great sceneries here with the snowy mountains. And yeah, I'll talk to you after every section, and then we see how much the consumption is. Have fun. We are now approaching the end of the uphill section, and here when we turn left, our consumption is 13 liters per 100 kilometers. I will insert the MPGs, UK and US after every section. I will also insert from the next section on the overall consumption plus the consumption for this very section just finished, so that you get an idea how much we have used on every section in addition to overall. Here we are on the hilly section, and as you see here, I barely put my foot on the gas. It's going a little bit downhill. I let Mother Gravity do her job, and the car accelerates almost by its own. And on the way down, build up some momentum, and then on the way up, you can use it. You don't need as much energy as you would need if you go into the hill slower and try to maintain the speed. So just use the momentum, play with the hills, and just go with the flow. Here downhill, I don't need to push the pedal hard, just stroke it a little bit, and we accelerate without a lot of energy, and then we have the next turn and roundabout here anyway, so there's no need to accelerate harshly. And if possible, try to keep momentum. There's no need to brake here. There's no car that prevents us from going through this roundabout quite quickly. In this hilly section, you might have seen that I have tried to avoid accelerating on the uphill section. So when it's going uphill, I'm at the maximum. I kept the speed, or I was gradually slowing down in order to avoid a high consumption. And once the hill flattens or goes downhill, then I accelerated, and it needs much less energy when you do it then. So here at the sign we had 9.9 liters per 100 kilometers. Now we are approaching the downhill section, and as you probably know, gas engines or diesel engines are equipped with a thing that is called injection cut-off. So if the car is keeping the engine at revs, that means there is no fuel injected. Whereas if you step on the clutch and the engine needs to run by its own, there is the need to inject fuel to keep it running. Whereas now, you see here, there's almost no fuel injected, or once the revs go up a little bit, there will be absolutely no fuel injected. And this helps us saving energy as we move the vehicle without any fuel. And if you go downhill, the same principle applies as with the hilly section. Use momentum. If it goes downhill, and as you see later there are some flat sections in between, just try to use the momentum you have from the ascent to go over this flatter section, if it's possible. Sometimes it's simply not possible, and you need to step on the gas. But sometimes you just can use the momentum, and you don't need any fuel at all. ascent lies behind us, and here when we turn right we have 7.0 liters per 100 kilometers. Yes, you have seen I tried to avoid stepping on the gas as much as possible. It was not possible at 100%. Some of the flatter sections I had to accelerate a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. And now we approach the country road section. Well, you have probably noticed that I had a slight issue with the front camera. The power connection, the cable was loose, and so the camera stopped working, but it's not too bad. It was just a section of the country road section. You may have noticed that through those towns and villages, going 40 to 50 kilometers an hour, I kept the revs always down to 1200, 1500. Because there's no need. If you don't need the power, keep the revs down. And you notice that I barely go above 2000 RPMs because, as I just said, there's no need for it. So, end of country road section, 6.3 liters per 100 kilometers. Yeah, that's not too bad. Now we're coming onto the motorway. Here we have a speed limit of 100 kilometers an hour, 62 miles per hour. Normally in Austria on the motorways we have 130 kilometers an hour, but in some areas, especially in the west, where the valleys, the very densely populated valleys, the local government, the provincial government can set a lower limit of 100 kilometers an hour. It's called IGL, Emissionsschutzgesetz Luft. It's for environmental protection, air quality protection, noise protection, and we have a section like this, so we are here restricted to 100 kilometers an hour. So we stay here on the right lane because we need to exit at the next one. You may have noticed this vehicle is equipped with cylinder deactivation. So 2 of the 4 cylinders cut off when the load is very low. And you feel it, and you see the current consumption here going down by 1.5 to 2 liters per 100 kilometers once the cylinders are deactivated. So we're leaving the motorway now, and there is a sharp right turn at the end of the exit. But let's try to avoid braking. Just let the car come down with the engine cut off, let it brake by himself. It's going up a little bit. I do nothing, the car is braking by itself. And we can go into the corner with around 50 kilometers an hour. And at those double sign here we take the consumption, and we have 6.2 liters per 100 kilometers. Yeah, that's not too bad. That means we have reduced the consumption on the motorway from 6.3 to 6.2. With constantly going 100, 105, 95. Oh, look at this. What's that on the left? What's that? New BMW. Oh, electric. Oh, I guess that's the new iX, BMW iX. Interesting. Well, yes, we are coming to the inner city section now, the last section of our trip today. And even if there is a lot of accelerating and braking, there's still no need to rev up to more than 2000 RPMs. And if you need to accelerate quickly, then you still can use the manual shifting of the gearbox to keep the revs down, still accelerate quite quickly, as we do here. So 4th gear. So there's a traffic light ahead. Yeah, here we go. So I'm already in 6th gear. And yeah, it's 1500 revs. No need to rev higher. So you see the traffic light in front of us, it just turned green. It takes some time until the cars in front of us accelerate, so we approach the end of this queue quite slowly. There was no other car behind us. And the next traffic light is also red. I don't see the light, but I see the traffic going from left to right, so just keep the car rolling. Nobody behind us, so just go slowly. You also noticed that the car shifts quite early, even without me interfering manually. I just try to lift the foot from the accelerator a little bit, just move the accelerator, the pedal back a little bit, and that normally initiates the gear shift once you are in the range of the next gear. So if you reduce the load for a moment, then normally shifts into the next gear. But the golden rule is keep the car moving. Whenever you stop, that means you have to accelerate. And accelerating means you need energy, and energy is fuel. And energy is fuel, and fuel is expensive, maybe not in some parts of the world, but in most. And don't we all want to save a buck or two? And it's not only saving a buck, it's also reducing the wear and tear on the car, on the tires, on the brakes, on the engine. The engine oil lasts longer, it remains at a better quality, and therefore reduces the internal wear and tear of the engine. And as for me, I don't see any downside in this. Plus, you're much more relaxed. At least I am. When I drive the way I do, I'm much more relaxed than when I'm always trying to push hard and gain every second. And at the end, you're not much slower. we're coming to the end of our trip now. I hope you enjoyed the nice weather today. It's wonderful. It's pretty cold, 8 degrees centigrade, but you see no cloud in the sky, and I hope you enjoy the mountains and everything. Already snow covered. Well, we're coming to an end, and we stop here. There's no space over there, and we have 6.4 liters per 100 kilometers. Well, that's not too bad. And now we look at the details. Well, 6.4 liters per 100 kilometers isn't really bad, and I had this exactly the same consumption when I did this test for my German channel. So here you see an overview of the sectoral consumptions and the overall consumption of 6.4 liters per 100 kilometers. You see downhill almost nothing. Try to use gravity to go downhill, use the momentum as much as possible if there's a flatter section, and then you barely need any fuel going downhill. I've already mentioned all the strategies to get a better mileage, get a better fuel consumption, such as read the road ahead. Read the road ahead of you. If you see there's a red traffic light in front of you, just lift your foot off the gas, let the car coast towards the red light, and maybe you don't even have to accelerate. Keep in mind, this very vehicle with the driver and some load might be 1.7, 1.8 tons. And imagine how much energy it takes to accelerate this weight all the time. So the best thing is keep the vehicle in motion. Another thing is with ICEs, increase the load on the engine, but keep the revs down, as I already said. It might be useful to block the gear. If you accelerate, go into the manual mode and accelerate with maybe not 100% full throttle, but 80-90% throttle, and shift the gears manually as early as possible. So as soon as possible to go into the next gear, go into the next gear. Modern engines don't care about low revs as long as they are not too low, means around idling, around the idling revs. If you have a manual gearbox, just shift to the next gear as soon as possible. I wouldn't recommend going from a standstill in the second gear, because that might increase the reduction, the wear and tear on the clutch. But shift it from first to second gear as quickly as possible. Once you just got the car moving, second gear, and then go through the gears as quickly as possible and into the highest possible gear as quickly as possible. Another thing you've seen, and I've already mentioned, is play with the road. When we had the hilly section, I was always going a little bit quicker into the hill, reducing speed a little bit, and when it's going down again, then you can accelerate. Imagine just like a roller coaster. Okay, once you're on the highest, on the starting point, there's no energy needed. Everything goes, the whole speed and everything is just built up by gravity and by kinetic energy. And those two forces you can use when you drive your car as well. If you go into a hill, use the kinetic energy to go in a little bit quicker, reduce the speed, and when it goes down, then you can accelerate. Maybe you don't even have to put your foot on the gas. It's just by gravity. Well, yeah, I hope this helped you a little bit. And if you drive this car, congratulations, it's a very good car. It's an excellent car. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe my channel. There's much more to come. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy. See you next time.